2022 with some great things. So we'll be talking to you, all of you, all about that. But right now we're going to talk to Nicole Mason and her co-authors of this fantastic book that I look forward to reading. And Shevry's had a chance to read. Good gracious. Hello, gentlemen. How are you?
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
All right.
Hello.
You know, you write I don't know how many of you all have written other books, but to say now, you know, you are now authors, to me, that's really special. You know, Nicole, talk about what you brought together here.
So first and foremost, thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity. You certainly have been a stalwart in our community. And so thank you for continuing to stay on the wall with this positive energy and sharing our stories from a positive perspective. And so I had already completed 2 book anthologies for women. And on the second book anthology conference call, there was a man there. And I wasn't really sure what to do with it. And one of my good friends said, why don't you do a men's book? And so I ran that by my husband and I said, yeah, what do you think? And so we just began to think about it and pray about it. And we thought about all of these wonderful men who you now see. None of them had actually authored a book. And so it was interesting. They'll tell you it was interesting.
Well, it goes to show we all have a story to tell. We all have a story.
Yes.
Now it's up to us whether we want to tell it. And so you struck gold when you found these gentlemen who were willing to tell their stories. And a lot of times, you know, those stories are, you know, not, you know, those beautiful. Well, they have happy endings because they're here, but you know, they're not always the best story. Tell us the name of the book, because we haven't, I want to see that, Nicole. Sure. Right. Okay. Faith for Fiery Trials.
Faith for Fiery Trials.
Exactly. Boy, what a phenomenal cover. So who do we want to start with? Who wants to start first to tell me how you got to know Nicole and why you raised your hand and said, you know, I've got a story to tell. Who are we going to start with? Nicole,
I'll go first.
Okay, Sean. All right.
Sean Mason. And Nicole and I met at Howard University, 1987, and been together ever since.
Okay.
All right. HU for life. And I probably was the last one to want to tell the story. The other brothers, all of us fellowship at Greater Mount Calvary Holy Church on Rhode Island Avenue. And,
why
and we're
does
just
that
friends
sound
anyway.
Familiar, Shevry? I'm sorry.
And all of us are friends, and we all tell our stories in the barbershop. We share when we're talking to each other. You know, we're good confidants to each other. And Nicole kept pushing me. We can do this. We can do this. And I kept pushing the brothers, and she collaborated and got us all together. And we call her the principal because she really got on us, and she cut and edited and wrote, and her team really helped put it together to really bring the story to life. And we all have great stories to tell. And like you said, it's rare that you can get some men together and really articulate and be transparent. And that was the birth of the book.
Well, it sounds like you had the biggest burden there, Sean, because you may have been telling stories that Nicole didn't know and found out when she said it.
God. I have a great chapter.
Yeah, it was good. And you want to share just some of the chapter titles? I was a father before I was a man is one of them. Just in the nick of time. Yeah, just in the nick of time. You're going to be hearing from Tony Keith. God gave me 2 so that I can give you 1. That's Brother Leon. God heal my heart. Help me to believe again. That's Bernard Perry. And Raised in the Fire by Thomas Wright. And Overcoming Pornography. Listen, this book is powerful. And so I'll let them share a little bit about their stories. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to start with Leon.
Okay, Brother Leon, you want to go? Yeah.
Yes. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me on here. Elder Nicole approached me at a New Year's revival at First Baptist Glen Arden and said she was interested in having this book about men. And I told her that I'd always wanted to do an autobiography, but, never thought about writing anything. And ironically, my mother, who's passed, was an English teacher. So maybe I got it from her, but I always wanted to tell this story because I want people to know the importance of donating a kidney, because I've done a lot of drugs and a lot of whatever the word is, with a lot of women. And, God cleaned me up that I was able to donate a kidney to my eldest brother in 2004. We've now celebrated 17 years. I'm 65, he's 61. I wore this shirt because this is my condolences to the Cowgirls. He's a Cowgirl fan. I'm a Washington football team fan. But it was just great being a part of this story. And the thing I like the most is none of us knew each other's story until the book was published. So I'm very honored to be on there with these gentlemen. And my title, God gave me two just in case you needed one, is just what it is. A lot of people don't realize we got two kidneys, but we only need one to live.
Wow, fantastic. Steve, I'm going to go to you next.
Yes, thank you for having me on your show today. I am very grateful to God. I am grateful for Elder Nicole Mason and, of course, her husband, Sean Mason. And I'm also grateful for my wife, because it was my wife and Elder Mason that pushed me to write my particular story. The title of my story is Praying Through Pornography, a Thorn in My Flesh. And so basically what I deal with in my chapter is with people that deals with pornography and how to become clean and free from that. And it's not just for men, because in my studies, I found that a lot of women are also connected and hooked to pornography. So it's just a godly story that helps someone see how that they can become clean from it and be renewed. So I'm very grateful to be on the book with the rest of the gentlemen, like was previously stated, that we all were friends and are friends before we wrote the book. It took me some convincing to write about my subject, because it's not a subject that you want to really tell all the time. And so after my wife and after Elder Nicole convinced me to write about the story, I looked at it and the Lord showed me that it will help someone. And so I had to look at it from that vantage point to say, okay, I'll stand for this somewhat embarrassing story so that others can be helped set free.
Fantastic. That's wonderful. Thomas, how about you?
Hi. I enjoy writing, and but I didn't know I would enjoy this process because it opened up some things that I thought were going to remain closed, or not even know that they were there. There was a door there that needed to be open. I so appreciated Elder Mason for even asking me to do this, and then of course my wife was a great support and a great help. Always believed in me that I could pen this writing. And I think when I started writing, it didn't seem like I wanted to stop. So Elder Nicole had to do quite a bit of editing and cutting and talking and what have you. But I appreciated the process so much. And I believe that, raised in the fire, it opened up some doors that I pray open up doors for other brothers to see themselves, see where they came from, see where they are, and see the opportunity to go to a different place that
So, Thomas,
may
what
be a
was your
little more
story?
productive for them, bring some more happiness to them.
What was your story?
It referenced my childhood. it referenced my childhood. I grew up in Washington. I'm a proud, very proud Washingtonian. But I realized that things were happening in the family that I didn't, I thought was just a part of life. My home life was functional. There was violence, and I had to learn how to cope with it. And but as I got older, I realized, and this book, this process allowed me to realize that I had I had shorted out a lot of things. I have suppressed things that had occurred to me, not realizing that those things that I had suppressed actually were rearing their ugly head in my life in a very different way, a very destructive way at times. And when I found Christ, thank God, it opened up some things. I was able to be a lot freer with myself. And so my chapter is a hope and a prayer to other brothers to find yourself, see yourself where you were, and know that you can be in a different place, a better place, where you can smile, you can laugh, you can enjoy the company of other people, and not be so bogged down with I'm a man and I'm tough and I can't let people see, the softer side of me and those type of things.
Wonderful. I want to make sure we get Bernard and Tony in here. So, Tony, I'm gonna start with you, and Bernard, you'll carry up the end. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, and once again, I echo. Thank you for this opportunity. I cannot echo any further than what the brothers just said about the Masons, and certainly shout out to my wife as well. My chapter is entitled "God Will Show Up Just in the Nick of Time." I think about kind of similar to Thomas, childhood trauma. My childhood trauma had taken me to a place of substance abuse, torn relationships, low self-esteem, homelessness, and the list goes on, which reminds me of a story in the Bible about David and his men went to war only to come back and see the city burned, wife and kids gone, and the Bible said he had lost everything. And that was my story, somewhat of, I wanted to title it, my subpart was From Crying to Recovery, because in that chapter, I disclose how all of my behaviors was nearly cost me active duty military, marriages, and so forth and so on. But God kept me through it all and kept it kind of quiet on the radar, that successful military career, and the list goes on and on. So it's all laid out there in the chapter, how God will show up, because I should have been in the stockade. I should have been in a different place, and not as a cliche. But I'll close with this, with that story. It reminds me how they cried out to God and just said, help. And he did. So like David, and his men, God has restored to me all that I lost. He's done and continue to do great things, exceeding abundantly above all I can ask or think. And working with these brothers was just a joy. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Bernard?
I too thank you, like my co-authors, for this awesome opportunity. The Masons know how I feel about them. The process for me was difficult because I was still in pain while I'm writing. That was the process for me, but with encouragement from Elder Mason and my wife, that helped me to get through it. The title of my chapter is Brokenhearted, God Helped Me to Believe Again. And it's about the passing of my daughter from epilepsy 4 years ago on my wedding anniversary. And so I talk about the process of what God took me through up until now, with dealing with grief and the loss of a child and how that impacted me as a man. I think the most important thing about the book is that it's one of a kind. I wanted to be a part of something that was the first, and something that's going to change men and whoever reads it, women, their teenage sons and daughters, because you don't get books about men sharing their emotions. We talk about it to each other individually or in our special groups, but rarely do you see books about men sharing the trials and tribulations that the Lord has helped them with, and I'm excited about this opportunity. We was able to start, my wife and I, a foundation in honor of our daughter, the Kayla Ross Perry Memorial Foundation, in her name, and it's all about epilepsy. And I can understand, I can relate to Miss Bernard. I think it's Lyris Bernard.
Yes.
I can relate to her story and what she's doing. My wife and I are definitely going to reach out to her, and I'm just thankful for this opportunity.
Well, I appreciate all of you all being with us today, particularly a day after Thanksgiving, when some people were sitting at that Thanksgiving table trying to think of something and really faking it, because they really probably hoped that there was something that would help them to get through whatever challenge they were facing. Nicole, what do you hope will happen with these stories? What do you hope people will take away from these stories?
Yeah, so I hope that men will read the story and that women will read it for the men that they love, because it really gets into a space, as Bernard said, that had never been done before. There isn't a book about African American Christian men coming together, sharing from a very transparent and a very vulnerable way. And so I'm hoping that it will open other people up. And we actually have a new cohort that we're starting. These men are going to be coaching and mentoring the new men that are coming together. But we're also, for 2022, going to be doing a documentary with these men, because peradventure a man cannot read, but he'll be able to watch something like this, a documentary where they're going to be sharing their stories, bringing their wives in, talking about it more extensively. So it's going to be very powerful. So this is just the beginning. We're just scratching the surface. They've been great to work with, although kind of a headache at times, and that's a running joke for us. But it's been very powerful. I'm so proud of all of them, because they've had different opportunities in the media such as this to talk about their stories and to make these powerful connections. So thank you very much.
No, this is fantastic. I applaud each and every one of you. I know how difficult it might be to tell those personal stories, but it sounds like you did it for the greater good, and that you were driven to do this because of a greater spirit. So thank you so very much for being with us. And give us the name of the book one more time, Nicole.
Sure, it's
Shevry,
Faith for Fiery Trials. Yeah,
right. We want to
men
show it
impacting men with real, raw, and relatable stories.
Wonderful. And how can folks get a copy of the book?
So each co-author sells their books individually, but certainly if you reach out to me, I can certainly make sure that you get all of the information to be able to purchase the book. And the reason that we do that is so that each co-author is able to sell their books individually and connect with the people that want to connect with them, and they connect with their stories. So we do it that way.
That's fantastic. Okay, well, you all need to get your wardrobe together and your suitcase, because you all might be on the road pretty soon, going around the country, sharing stories and getting other men to tell theirs. It's a really great opportunity. I know we interviewed someone about 2 years ago, fathers who've lost children. And they wrote a book, which, of course, they were traveling around the country. So this is an opportunity, I'm sure, for you all. Folks need to hear, experience, and know that there is something called tomorrow. So thank you again, all of you folks, for joining us, and continue to have a great holiday weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty. So, Nicole, I think we have one other thing we wanted to talk about on our show today, and that is grief. And I've heard a lot of that in those men's stories, grief over the past and experiences they've had and how they've come through. But I'm sure that there's grief. Talk about that. And we have a couple of minutes, so we want to talk a little bit about that, because this is that time of year as well.
Yeah. So the book title actually is a sermon that I preached sermon title that I preached after I lost my mom and my grandmother. And it'll be 16 years next month. And so I know something about grief. And the thing that I want to convey to everybody is that, there is something that comes out of your pain, and it's called purpose and promise. And that's what I learned during my grieving trials. And, I want to just share with people who are particularly during the holiday season, because I lost my mom and my grandmother in the same month, same year, November, right before Thanksgiving. And I was 8.5 months pregnant. And so I know how you can go all the way down, feel like you're almost level to the ground. But there is some purpose if you continue to move forward. Bernard Perry mentioned and that he shared in the book about losing his daughter to epilepsy. And he and his wife, Edana, have now started a foundation bringing awareness to epilepsy in the African American community. So it's that kind of purpose that you can take and turn your pain into. I lost my mom to heart disease, and so I've become an ambassador for the American Heart Association, and did a commercial that went viral, really, all around the world, talking about African Americans and heart disease. So there is pain attached, purpose attached to our pain. And I would just submit to those who are going through this holiday season. We lost a lot of people during COVID. We at our church, Greater Mount Calvary, we lost a lot of people during COVID. But I would just say, number one, honor your feelings, because they are your feelings. Honor your feelings, but don't stay in your feelings. I would say create a day of remembrance. And that's what I feel like the Kayla Ross Perry Foundation is. And there is also the K Day that is attached. And so each year the Perrys create a space to bring people together to talk about epilepsy, talk about the foundation in our communities, and then bring health experts and health providers, just information and fun. So we do exercise, and we love the Zoom and all of those kinds of things. And so we do that. And then I would say serve others, because that's what the purpose is all about, serving others through your own pain. That's what I found to be a very great source of consolation for me when I started working with the American Heart Association. So I had the opportunity to go around speaking to groups, talking about heart disease in African Americans, which was powerful. And then finally, receive the help that people are trying to give. And I know during the times of grieving and the holiday season in particular, we tend to isolate ourselves, but there is something called the ministry of presence. And sometimes people just want to be in your presence, not to say anything, not to talk about it because it's hard to talk about it, but just to be with you, so that you're not alone. And so I thank God for my husband, who has been that for me throughout this entire time period, just really being sensitive to the needs of that person during the time, particularly the holiday season. And I was an only child. So, losing my mom and my grandmother in the same month, but he has been a great source of encouragement for me, just being here for me, dealing with me.
That's great. I was gonna bring Sean in briefly because when a person is grieving and you're the person that's closest to them, there's some things that I'm sure you're thinking about. I mean, how do I make this better? I mean, that's that burden that you can't always fulfill, but I'm sure you're thinking, how can I fix this? How can I make this better? Sean, how did you deal with the grief that your wife was experiencing?
We always believe in strong family values and support. And one thing my wife just said was the presence, just to be there and, to hold her hand and come on, baby, let's walk around the block and let's exercise and let's go get some food. And, let's relax and just open up. And if you got to cry, let's cry together. And we have a close-knit family. We have a strong support from the church. And I don't think we missed a service. I think, even if we had to go to church and cry, we did it together. And, just being the presence, being right there with her through her pain and through our family's pain, because we lost the matriarchs of our family.
Wow.
So we had to help each other.
Well, I appreciate both of you all being with us. This is good news. I mean, one of the things that you talk about, that not everybody's a member of a church. They don't have that church community with them. And so and sometimes they feel as though, well, why am I going to church now when I'm not happy, as opposed to going when I have something to offer? So they even stay away from the church if they think that's an option for them. What would you just in closing, Nicole? I mean, people that don't have that support system, what would you suggest?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I would just recommend that those who are in their circle, that they allow them to help them. You know, we tend to shut ourselves off when we're grieving for a variety of different reasons. You know, just don't want to be bothered. It's an unknown. You're uncertain. You're vulnerable. You know, you're broken. All of those things. But we all need somebody, and so let somebody help you, because we need that help to get through it. You know, we're interdependent beings, meaning that we need each other to survive. That is true. It's not just a song. It's not just a cliche. We need each other to survive. And if you don't have a church home, I would encourage you to get a church home, because it's just a powerful thing to have people in the same space who know what it feels like to lose. And it's not always about losing a loved one. You know, we experience loss all the time, losing a job, losing a home. All of those things tend to lead us to grieving. But when you have people that can help you in that space, it makes it much more bearable. And that's the beauty of surrounding yourself with people that love you and that can support you, whether you're in or outside of the church. But we are huge proponents of having a church home. Great Amount Calvary Holy Church is a great church home to have, and we would love to have you join us there.
Well, that was a great appeal. That's fantastic. I thank you both for being with us. I wish you a happy holiday season and great things coming. And want to hear more about how things are going with the book. That's fantastic.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much.
All right, John. All right, Nicole. Thank you so much.